Hey all you cool Ramblers and Rebels, this is Jayson with Rambler Rebelin with Jayson. This is in regards to the 1967 American Motors Rambler Rebel. And today what I'm going to be going over is the brake line pressure differential warning light. So this is a differential warning light system that has an indicator light on the dash. When your brake light comes on, there is a loss of pressure in either the front or the rear brake system. Now, to show you, this is just a little ad that I had printed. I have the original ad, but I wanted to show it to you. Engines for Now. They had their campaign now. Rebel, cars for now. So that was their campaign slogan. This was the launch of the brand new 290 V8 in all series of the vehicle, and also the 343 V8, which is also known as the second gen engines. So today, moving forward, we're going to be talking about this differential switch, this pressure line, brake line warning light. Alright, so right here, this is actually the housing. This is located underneath the heater box, heater core, blower, motor on the passenger side of the vehicle. And this is tucked away down in, and it is secured onto 2 bolts on the firewall right here. And this also says Wagner, although you're not able to see that right now. I'm sorry about that. But you have 2 brake line outlets here and right here. So this little brass monster has a lot to do and is very important. I'm going to go over those reasons why. This is what I have dissected out of the differential switch after I took it off. I actually took this apart, got it taken apart. I'm going to tell you a little history about this. The car was purchased by my dad in 1967. It's been a family car. It's a one family owned car, and I am the proud owner of it now. I started driving this car back in 1982, which would leave me at 8 years old. Then if you put that math together, I've been on the road for just under 40 years driving this car. In the late 1970s, the brake light came on in my dad's Rambler Rebel. Dad thought it was a short. He disconnected the bulb because he thought it must be the brakes are working. Why is this happening? That's what a lot of people did in those days. So what I discovered in taking off the differential assembly is, number one, it will say in the TSM that do not fix this, replace it. Well, you know what? These are no longer available. These are not being reproduced. So you have no choice but to overhaul them. These parts are what I took apart. This top right here, this is the plunger. The plunger goes, or the nylon top would go on top here, and it's fixed to a warning light indicator, which it reads to the dash. Attached to this is actually this plunger and this spring right in there. On the sides, this was easy to take off. That's nylon. These, on the other hand, were a bear to get off. So I had to take my battery operated, oh gosh, the wireless, or what am I trying to say? The battery operated compression or whatever, you know, I don't know. But anywho, it got him off without rounding anything and without destroying anything on the nuts, on the bolts here, that bolt that goes into the sides. So I have these 2 taken off right here. Also, I'll be showing you a diagram of this here shortly, but there are compression springs in here. These are actually the pistons that go on either side of this actuator, this switch assembly, and these are the O-rings that are attached to the pistons. Now, there is they refer to these as the piston load spring, and you have the brake tubes up here and brake tubes here. And then, as I said before, this plunger, the switch contact, and the actuator spring for this wire terminal that goes to the top. So, with that said, I'm going to show you a diagram of the actual switch itself. I went to the liberty of colorizing it here for us. In the blue, I have the spring, the piston load springs highlighted here in blue, as also this little spring here for the switch. Now I consider this to be a relaxed spring on both sides here. Just for confusion, excuse my reach, I'm going to cover this bottom section up there. So this is what they consider to be the neutral position. So right here in green, this is the piston, and up here is in orange is the plunger. The yellow that I've highlighted are the brake lines, just to kind of color code and give it a little bit of prettiness. Now the green, these pistons, and if we look closely here, you're going to see the piston assembly on both sides. There are two pistons. Now I'm going to show you these pistons, and I'm going to show you how this has been for the last almost 40 years. Alright, these, my friend, are the pistons. These were a bear to get out. But right here is a piston, right here is a piston. I don't know if you can see it too closely, but this has a lot of pitting, a lot of decay, you could say. This one's almost pristine on the outside, and the inside's a little different. With these pistons on the side, these have O-rings up here that I've highlighted in gray. Now these were corroded. What had happened here is up here, this is the operating system functioning normally. You have equal pressure to the brake line here, equal pressure, and then the pistons are in the middle, and this plunger remains into the upward position. All are functioning properly, all is well. But if you have a lack of pressure and a lack of, maybe could be the system detecting that there could be a leak, or maybe there could be a problem with the PSI and the lines, either side will close off for either direction of maybe the fronts don't work or maybe the backs don't work. Boom, then you get your indicator light on to the dash, and you must attend and repair your brakes. Actuator. Switch, I should say. Now, let's go back down here as these little guys go. Here we're going to see exactly what had happened back in the late 70s. Clearly what had happened in this area. Push this up a little bit more so you can read it and see it. Again, color coded. The green are the pistons. Now these pistons were pushed to the side. I'm going to show you how the side had happened. When a hydraulically actuated warning light, when it's activated, this valve assembly, these pistons, these are also in a common bore. Some people refer to these as maybe a valve. And when the spring load switch contact plunger rests up at the top, and if something happens, then the plunger will drop down. Here you can clearly see in this little line here and over here, notice this spring. this spring is compressed, this one is relaxed. When you have a pressure loss in one area, it will go either direction, thus activating the switch on the dash. You'll see this little divot here. That's where it falls into place, and you have a loss of pressure. Then the spring compresses and it actuates for creating an equal amount of pressure with one side compressed, versus up here in the neutral position. The neutral position, you will have the actuator activating spring with the plunger in the upward position. Here it drops down to this point in the white. This is normal with the two tops of the valves or the pistons resting on top. Again, relaxed springs, one relaxed spring down here. This is what we do not want. And when you have that, you've got to make sure that we tend to it and you fix it. Like I said, these are not reproduced. So, as an overview, there's a warning light located on the instrument cluster that warns the driver when the differential has an 80 to 150 psi exists between the front and the rear brake systems, or known as the dual master cylinder. Now, when the ignition switch is turned on into the start position, the warning light will activate, and this feature is incorporated to ensure that the driver, that the warning light bulb is operating. A hydraulic actuated warning light switch that is activated, this is the switch that is right below, again, below the blower housing. The front and rear brake systems are connected to the valve switch assembly. Now the valve assembly, it consists again of these two valves in a common bore, and it has these springs on the side. This switch has contact with the plungers and rests up at the top, as I indicated before. When there is a differential pressure of 80 to 150 psi that occurs between the front and the rear systems, then the valves will shuttle forward with the side that has low pressure. The spring-loaded switch is triggered to the downward position, and the light comes on to the dash. Now, once this plunger has been triggered by a pressure differential, the ignition switch is turned on. The hydraulic brake system has to be corrected, and it has to be reset. Prior to correcting this brake system problem, or even if you bleed the brakes, disconnect this switch, the nylon switch up here. You have to take out the nylon switch terminal, and you have to take out the little spring and the actuating spring, and the nylon plunger. Now, in the event that this is triggered down below, the valve centering spring pressure may hold the switch plunger, therefore apply a slight amount of brake pressure by releasing the valve body. This is supposed to correct the hydraulic system, and the brakes have to be bled. You assemble it back, boom, voila, you insert it in reverse order, the problem should be fixed. But back in the late 1970s, this plunger, piston, I should say, the valve, was actually in one direction or the other. I didn't get to see it, whether it was on the right or left side, but it's corroded. This took some hammering to get out of there, because I had to take a chance. I actually dipped this body into, we used to call zip strip or paint remover, And I did that with the nylon switch out, by the way, because what I did is I wanted these O-rings to switch to deteriorate a little bit. I was able to pound them out with a punch and a hammer, and voila, this is what I have. Now, this switch is a rebuild kit. The rebuild kit comes with the new springs, and it comes with new O-rings for the pistons. Now the pistons have to be reused. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The brass, or excuse me, the copper steel O-rings are brand new into the kit, as well as this old spring is replaced by a new one, and they also give you a new nylon plunger versus the old nylon plunger up here. So this is removed. These old parts are history. Those are pushed aside, and here you have the system, and this is what you have to work with to be assembled up here. It's very simple, it's very easy, but just to point out, right in the middle here, this was extremely corroded. Dirt, mud, muddled up, and I cleaned them out with a wire brush, scrubbed them really well, and now this is time for assembly. Now we're ready for the assembly. One thing to point out, this is the old plunger right here. Do not reuse that little baby, but you have got to reuse this little brass connector here. This slides off of here. You have to put that transferred over right there. Otherwise, the switch will not work. Have to have that contact. Okay? But I'm going to put the pistons in here. This is the right side. They just push in there. Give them a little bit there. And then just give them a little TLC. I just have this little glass kit. I feel it push down a little bit there. I do the side here. This is the new washer, the copper washer, the new spring. Before you do that, this has to go in. The nipple side out. You drop in. Try that again. There you go, just like that. Take the new assembly, replacement parts, push in there. I'm just going to hand tighten this down. I'm not going to torque it very much. I won't torque it on here, but there's that one side. Again, it's ready for new assembly. You're going to notice that pitting here, that's from the old, but again, they don't remake these valves. Drop that in here. A little bit down TLC. There you go. Take the little stop, nipple side up, drop that baby in here. Push it down again just a little bit. Now when I do this, it will actually center out. I will show you that later. Got that assembly, copper and the spring. It's ready to assemble in here. There you go. Again, I'm just going to hand tighten it for now. Now, the top. Gonna notice, if I hope you can see it, there would be a little gap down in here. Hope you can see it. I don't know if you can, but it meets right in the middle. Take the new plunger. Again, make sure you use that little contact point. Thick side down, skinny side up, nylon nut right here. Screws in there gently. Try that again. Come on, baby. There we go. I think I got it started now. Yep. And I'll tighten that down later. There you have it, folks. That's it. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel up here. Please subscribe and support me through the journey of the 1967 Rambler Rebel, the Now cars from American Motors Rambler dealer. Now. Thank you for tuning in. This is the brake line pressure differential warning light system assembly. Thank you.